Three, two, and one. I am live. What's up, guys? So Brandon isn't here, obviously. This is the first time that I'm actually doing a solo podcast, and part of the reason, well, actually the main reason, is that I had to fire Brandon. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I have COVID, so I've been stuck at home. Just sitting on the couch, painting, whatever you can do in a single bedroom apartment. So I asked Brandon, if it's okay if I just kind of put out a solo podcast, give my testimony a little bit. You guys have been with us 30 some episodes. But I've had a co-host and I've also had a guest on every single episode. And I've never really given a chance to fully tell my story. From beginning to now, it's just so crazy to think. So I'm 27 or 28, and man, it's been a crazy journey. I grew up here in New Mexico, Belen. I was born in Albuquerque, but I grew up in Los Chavez, Belen area. My parents had me when they were, I want to say 20, 21. So they had me at a very young age, and I was a surprise. And, luckily they stayed together and made it work out. And I couldn't be more thankful to have been raised by two amazing people. I was also raised a little bit by my grandparents, and I was raised by a lot of different people. I think that's why I love socializing so much, because I was just always kind of passed around at a young age. My parents one was working full time, one was going to school full time, and they couldn't afford the best babysitter. Sometimes I was with Nana one day, sometimes I'd be with Grandpa Larry the next, then I'd be with just a random babysitter, and so I was always kind of passed around, very comfortable with being with a lot of people. My very first babysitter, she only spoke Spanish. And so from the age of 1 to 2, pretty much all I kind of knew was Spanish. That was when I was kind of at the babysitter's a lot, when my mom was finishing school. And my mom always jokes about it, because she would she would come home from school or whatever to go get me. And she would be like, Josh, come here. And I just would not kind of even acknowledge. And then, my babysitter would be like, siéntate pa' acá. And I would just know exactly what she's saying and run right over to her. And so it was just crazy, I mean, unfortunately, I didn't keep speaking Spanish. I didn't stay with it. I jokingly tell people that I know Spanish, and I just make up words. And so I could if someone doesn't know Spanish, I can kind of act like I do know Spanish and just fool them. I used to do that at parties a lot. And so yeah, I was raised at a young age by just different people. I was raised in a Christian household. I was raised to love the Lord, and I grew a relationship with God throughout my whole life. But at a very young age, I accepted him in my heart. I was my mom would say that I was a healer since I was younger. And I just always had visions and just crazy stuff connected to God. Whether it be I would pray over my Nana. She was really sick, and she would never let me forget. I laid hands on her at 3 or 4. And I just prayed with my eyes closed and put my hands on her, and 100% communicating with God. And the next day she healed, and she says that it was because of me, God working through me, and she never let me forget that. I also had visions, kind of well, my grandpa, I'm gonna get into him in a sec, but my grandpa, he passed when I was about 4 years old, 4 or 5 years old, and he passed while we were on our way to a Ruidoso trip. So we were on our way to a Ruidoso trip, and 3 or 4 years old, you're laying down on your mom's lap, and I just told her, I was like, Mom, look on the mountain. Look, because there was a cross, right? There was a cross on the mountain we were passing. And I said, Mom, I see Jesus with a man. I said, I see Jesus, he's burying a man. And my mom was like, oh, okay, whatever. That's crazy, Hito. Driving, and, as soon as we get to Ruidoso, we get the news that my grandpa was, he was hit by a train. He was hit by a train. The crossings were broken. He was unaware that a train was coming, and he drove right through it without the crossings down or whatever. And, he survived about up until a month after he got hit. But, so just crazy things like that. I was pretty much with my grandpa 24/7 from like 1 to 4, every chance I could, every weekend. He was like my second dad. I was always with him. My grandpa never had a son. So he, like, when I was born, I was kind of like his like first son, And so he took me in his wing, and he was a crazy guy, he was a fun, caring, loving, crazy guy, all in one. And just a cowboy to the bones, hardworking, went to Vietnam, just the typical, lived a hippie life for a little while with my nana. And they had, my nana, they had my mom, at a young age, and my auntie, and my nana and grandpa raised them up until they were 16, then they got a divorce. But my grandpa, he was always taking me to do things, fishing. He would take me to pull radish off the fields or whatever. And he would always give me, every night before I went to bed, he'd give me a pack of fake cigarettes. And he would make me a big cup of coffee at like 10 p.m. and a pile of Oreos like that big right next to it. And he would smoke cigarettes a lot, so I wanted to be just like him. So he would give me my fake cigarette gums, and I would literally sit with my leg crossed, and we would just like watch the Animal Planet every night. And I would always tell him, like, my mom even caught him one time. I'm like, Grandpa, when I grow up, I want to be just like you, like. And my mom was listening, and he's like, no, Hito, you don't want to be like me. And I'm like, yes, I do. I want to smoke like you. And like right away, he was just like, oh, Hito, no. Like, he just didn't, I think he didn't realize how much I looked up to him and wanted to mirror everything he did, made him like self-reflect, because he was kind of a crazy guy. And, from 4 to 5, so he was in my life a lot. I was pretty much back and forth. I would go to Chelsea's house, my cousin Chelsea, my auntie Nina. I grew up, changed subject. Grew up wrestling. I grew up doing baseball, soccer, any sport that you could think of. My parents threw me in everything, even if I didn't like it. And that was kind of like their cardinal rule was like, you're going to try everything at least once, you're going to follow through with it, and, if you don't like it, then you don't have to ever do it again. And so my dad, he was actually a state champ wrestler, and, he put me in wrestling at 4 years old. And that was one of the sports that I kind of took off on right away, which probably made my dad extremely happy. I took state my first year of wrestling ever. And I was back and forth, state champ tournaments, always first or second, always up there in junior wrestling. I would go at it with, the same kids you see every year you grow up with, lifelong friends that I still talk to this day. It's crazy how you form a bond, with someone that you just battled it out with. You have like a mutual respect. Little backstory. My dad was a state champ wrestler. In high school, he took state. Very well-known wrestler. Our whole family it just kind of runs in the genes. My mom, she didn't do sports, but she was probably the more athletic one out of my parents, even though she didn't do sports. She's like the type to just, you have her do something and she could do it first try. Like, she has good hand-eye coordination, an excellent dancer. She taught me how to dance. I give her credit to that. And so I kind of drew from both of my parents, and even my Nana Ree as well. My Nana Ree taught me how to do art, how to paint, how to do art, how to paint at a young age. And so she was always having me paint rocks and, little things. She was famous for pottery artwork, so she would go to like Santa Fe or, wherever, and she would get like pottery or broken pottery, native pottery, and she would paint like a very beautiful like mural on it. And, she was real into like New Mexico culture. She liked like turquoise stuff. She was very much like ahead of her time. She was kind of like what would be like a model in today's language, Very, had everyone, my mom and my sister, or my mom and my auntie just always dressed very, very nice. Taught them like just amazing mannerisms. And this podcast is going to be all over the place. So I'm kind of just like going down memory lane, literally just trying to remember, as much as I can growing up and what made me who I am today. So it's going to be all over the place. I just kind of want to give you guys some backstory and like give, some shout outs to the people that were there at the beginning, obviously your parents, your grandparents. Such a pivotal moment like in your life, those very beginning years. And, and then I was raised like kind of tough on the other side of my grandparents. Like my dad's mom and dad, very, very strict household. My thought that Joe had us, derooting trees and leveling like, fields since I could literally walk. He would have, my parents would drop me off at my Tata Joe's and my Nana Lynn's house for the summer, and they would basically it was almost like they wanted me to just grow and learn how to work with my hands. And so they did that. I was there for a couple months with my cousin Justin, and I think Martin was there for a little bit, and it was like working a full-time job. As soon as the sun comes up, your grandpa's knocking on your door and giving you a new project to do. And I'm not gonna lie, I hated it like really bad. But my cousin Justin was like just not a complainer, was the best worker. He made me look really bad, but luckily he helped me out a lot, and I'm thankful looking back, going through that at a young age. I knew what work was. I knew how to work with my hands. And then I would come back for the summer and, go to elementary school. I was a very talkative kid, as you can imagine. This is what I like doing. I would never get in trouble, but when I did get in trouble, it was because I was talking too much in school. And, I was a very innocent kid. Looking back, I had like like I said, I was really, really close to God. I went to children's Bible school. I like really did soak in like the Bible. Like at a young age, I understood like the books, and I understood, who Jesus was and what he meant to me and what God is. And I was like exposed to that at a young age, and I received it. And so I had that in me, throughout elementary school. I still have it in me, but, obviously when you're younger, you're more innocent. And so, like, this is just, like, an example of, like, how, like, good of a kid I was, how innocent I was. Like, my mom, she would give me $1 every day to get lunch school or whatever, right? And once a week, they have, like, a candy sale. And they sell hot pickles, and you kids that go to elementary school know, or you who have grown up in like certain elementary schools, there's like a candy day, right? So me being like, the kid that I was, I chose to spend my money on like all candy and hot pickles that day, and I didn't get a school lunch. And so after lunch, I went back to my class, and my mom said she received a phone call from school, and she was wondering what the heck is this, and it was me. And I had called my mom out of guilt, out of the guilt in my heart, and I confessed I felt so bad that I spent my dollar on candy instead of lunch. So, and my mom was just like, at the time, well, Hito, don't do that again. But she remembers that, that moment, because I really was innocent, and I do have guilt, when I still do, like, have guilt when I do bad things, and I'm thankful for that. That's my conscience, sorry. And, I had that all the way up until, even middle school. I remember getting picked on for, not wanting to have girlfriends, because my parents wouldn't let me. And I remember, getting picked on for just being, I was a smaller kid. And, middle school is rough. And I feel like that's like a territory where like mean bully kids like thrive, That's where they have their time to like be how they want to be. And, middle school wasn't that great. I mean, I had a lot of friends. I've always had a lot of friends. But I was just, I don't know. I've always had trouble fitting in like a group, And I found that out at a young age. I always had trouble, staying like with a certain category of people. I was like always questioning like, who am I? Like, where do I belong? Like, well, all the jocks know where the jocks go, and all the, the goths know, and all the skate, like everyone had their groups. And I was just so puzzled, like how someone could just know where they fit in, how could you just know that that's where you belong? Because I was drawn by people from all of the groups, right? Like I had a friend in each kind of clique, and so I was like pulled to all of them, and I was like never really fit in, I was with the jocks, and everyone's laughing at the one class clown in the jock, with the jocks, and while I was there, I'm like, I'm not enjoying this, I was never enjoying myself, like hanging out with groups, and even at a young age, like I was like against the grain, like in my own, on the inside, I didn't belong. And that's like what this podcast kind of represents, is like, you don't have to like belong to a group. You can represent yourself, and you can draw friends to yourself without, being a part of a clique, make everyone your clique, instead of just staying categorized, and instead of staying like compartmentalized in a group. Go out there, be yourself, you could be a goth, jock, nerd, artist, No one's going to put you in a box but yourself. So don't and high school, it's hard, because high school, middle school, it's like everyone wants to tell you what to do and where to go and who to be and who to like. And it's just complicated. So that's just kind of my advice, and that's just how I was at a young age, how I saw things. And middle school, my dad, he got in a really bad accident, almost killed him. He couldn't walk for about 2 years, I remember. About a year he was in a wheelchair, and he coached my middle school wrestling, and I just remember him going and watching me and supporting me. And my mom would take him, to all my things. And my mom and dad were always in my corner in all the sports. My mom, she would encourage me. She would push me, my mom would like challenge me to be better, I would always like make up excuses, and my mom was like the one to basically sharpen me, and not just agree with me, but like force me to be uncomfortable and no, you're going to do this whether you like it or not. And my dad he was kind of the same, but he was more just he led by example too, like I just would see all the things that he did. I would very specifically pay attention to like how people treated him and how people treated my mom. And they were always met with like kindness to people, and I would always like, well, why, they always seems like everyone like likes them, why? Or and it's just because they were just genuine to other people, they listen to other people. They make everyone they talk to their friend. They're not like, I never noticed them ever like being arrogant or having pride. Very selfless type of people. And I'm thankful that I'm kind of like that in a way. I don't really, I try not to be arrogant. I try not to I don't know, just be rude to people. I'm very thankful that God and my parents have, helped me realize that you're not the only person that matters on this planet. It's not all about you. It's not all about, you know, it's not all about what makes you happy. And at a young age, to realize that, it's very good, and it helped me out a lot. It helped me to make, the right friends. And yeah, because I don't know, I mean, this is just from my experience. Like, I really didn't start like seeking like happiness. I didn't know what happiness was until I started giving back to people and teaching people, and just not just holding knowledge and love to myself, but when my cup was overflowing with love, I was smart enough to share it with people, and and it just made me content inside, helping people and realizing that that's kind of how the world should work. If everyone was just nice, and if everyone who had everything would share with people that have nothing, and not even just things. I think that's something that's like people get mistaken for, is like, well, I give things to people, and it's not, it is, things are important to give, but like time, love, and energy are the ultimate currency. If you can donate one of those three to anyone in need, whether it be a little kid who doesn't have a parent, or if you're coaching a kid in sports, like time, love, and energy are like the biggest gifts that you can give someone to help them to grow, because you want people to grow just like you. So in high school, I finally, as a little freshman, I was a freshman on the varsity team. Again, it wasn't easy. I was still very innocent, still, as someone say, like a goody good. I barely was like holding girls' hands and kissing them, kind of, like I was just real, pretty innocent, I would say, to today's standards anyways. And I don't know, like I guess so let's just say I had a good freshman year. I was hanging out with all the seniors. I was accepted, by wrestling was what got me into like, hanging out with a lot of the older kids. So I enjoyed wrestling my freshman year a lot, because as a little kid, you want to hang out with all the seniors, and they took me under their wing, and it was like a love-hate relationship. The wrestling team, even though I was on the varsity, and we took state that year, we did a lot. I was on varsity up until district, and then I got beat out by a senior who was injured all year, and the senior that beat me out ended up taking state, and the person that he pinned in the finals was the person that I pinned earlier that year. So that was heartbreaking, to go all season and do good in varsity, and the only person that you can't beat in the state is the person on your team. That just shows how tough Belen wrestling is. It just shows like what type of room that we're in. There's JV wrestlers on Belen that could probably be half of the varsity kids, on other schools or whatever. So yeah, sports was good. Sports was great. I did okay in school. Let's see. I finally got in like my first like high school relationship, like where I actually genuinely fell in love with someone. My sophomore year, so a very young age, typical high school. Oh, you think this is gonna last forever, like butterfly thing, And I think you young kids can take note. Your first heartbreak is always gonna be your hardest. because at a young age you don't want to see the end of things good, you know. You want to make things last, and that's good. Everyone should thrive for that always. But it's the first time when something doesn't work out that your brain doesn't like connect the dots, and it doesn't understand like why I want it to work out so bad, you know. Like in your little like baby mind, you're like, I want this to work out so bad, like why won't it? You know, in your head you think you're giving it your all, but really you're just like a dumb immature kid, you know. And that's what I was. Is I was just like a dumb immature kid. Thought I was ready for, you know, love like every other kid does. And you know, my path kind of took a turn, you know. After my first breakup, I think it was, I don't know when we broke up or what, but after my first breakup, I kind of turned like I went the wrong direction, you know. I wanted to rebel more. I was kind of just like fed up, like I don't know. I just felt like nothing was paying off, even though it would have. I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna try everything I can. I'm gonna do everything I want. I'm going to, you know, party. I'm going to, you know, talk to as many girls as I can. I'm just gonna be a rebel. And you know, of course it's fun for a while in your head. You know, you're young, you're fearless, you're reckless. You think that nothing can touch you. You know, you're a senior in high school. I was used to throw very big parties, which obviously, you know, helped me make a lot of other friends. But, you know, some of those good friends probably weren't the best for me at the moment. But I was in that world. I was consumed in that world for a while, to drinking every single weekend, you know. After I lost the state championship my senior year. And, you know, as a kid, as a person who's grown up your whole life wanting to be a state champ like your dad, it just meant so much more to me than probably most kids, you know, at that age. Like, state to me was just like the pinnacle of what I wanted to do in high school. And, you know, I got pneumonia. I got pneumonia a week before district. They got me on antibiotics. They did whatever they could for me. And, I was still able to take first in district, but I was only operating on one lung basically. And, you know, what are you going to do? Quit for state? Like, no, you're going to show up with your boots on. And, you know, I went through it, and unfortunately I didn't succeed like how I wanted. You know, people can make excuses all they want. I'm not the type to do that, so I'm not going to make excuses. It just didn't happen. You know, some people are meant to be champions, and some aren't. And in my head, I was just kind of like really pushed to like going off the deep end. You know, I was getting in car accidents. I was just over the top. You know, I had like basically dedicated my whole body, my whole health, everything to like winning state. And whenever that fell through, I was like really just went even more deeper into the partying, you know. Just everything, all the wrong decisions I was making at that age. You know, just like a lot of high school kids, you know, it's normal, you know, just to have that crazy phase where you're just like going place to place to place, just nonstop. And it, you know, it didn't hit me. It hit me like a rock. Finally, I don't know how old I was. I think I was maybe 19 or 18, and I got a DWI. Driving home from a party. You know, I had just actually bought a truck off of one of my friends that day, and he had told me earlier, like when I bought it, that you know, the speedometer, right, that tells you like how fast you're going. He's like, dude, it's broken, so whatever the speedometer says you're going, it's actually going 10 miles faster than that, you know. And I just bought it that day. I didn't even think twice about it. So I'm like driving home from a party, you know, as I always did, you know, stupid, right? And just driving home, you know, I'm like perfectly, think I'm totally fine. I pass a cop, and, you know, I'm like, I'm going 55, it's a speed limit, but nope, I was going 10 over, and that was enough for the cop to pull me over. And he pulled me over right almost in front of my house. So you can literally see like my house from where I got pulled over. It was just the worst experience at that age, just in general. If you guys have not gone through that, it is just the most embarrassing thing. And to top it off, to make things 10 times worse, my dad actually saw cop lights at the end of the road, and he just had a feeling. My mom and him just had a feeling. They're like, Joshua ain't home. There's cop lights at the end of the road. Like, parent instinct. Go check it out. So my dad goes, checks. He shows up. By the time he shows up at the end of our road, I'm already in handcuffs, getting thrown in the back of the cop car. And my dad had to see his son, getting handcuffed, and there's nothing you could do about it. They already called it in. It was already too late. By the time he showed up, it was already a done deal. It was happening, and it was a blessing. It was meant to happen. It was meant for me to realize, like, look, dude, you're not on top of the world. You're not. You can be stopped. Like, you can't just live this reckless life without consequences. And I think that was the first big boom, like, consequence I hit. I was like, I need to get my crap together, And don't get me wrong, it's not like I, like, straightened up after that and I was completely fine, perfect. And I'm not like some, like, damaged human being where I'm like, got alcohol problems, and I'm not like a person who needed to drink every day or do drugs. Like, I'm still pretty normal, from today's standards. Like, obviously, it's normal at that age, but that was just kind of what I was going through at that age. And I was getting in a lot of fights. I got in a ton of street fights. Over 10, or if not 10 fights, total, like, from the period of like 18 to 21 or 16 to 21. It was always, not, and I was never like an instigator. I was never the person to start on. I think a lot of it had to do with my size, and I look like I'm still like 18. So if you guys can imagine like how much younger and littler I looked when I was actually 18, and I would be at parties and with older people, and I was just a target. I was always a target. And sometimes, looking back now, I'm sure there was a way to de-escalate it, but as a young kid trying to prove yourself, you have to prove yourself. That was like my way of proving myself to the people that I was around. So luckily I never lost any fights like that. I never got like severely hurt. I had broken fingers, little things like that, but I never got like hurt, badly injured how I could have. Like, I remember people, like, us leaving parties and, like, baseball bats are hitting the back window. Like, that type of stuff was, like, pretty normal, like, in Belen. And so, I got through all that. Finally, luckily I graduated college. So at first I wanted to be before I even graduated college, like when I first started going to college, I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. I don't think any kid knows what they want to do at that age, and if you do, consider yourself very blessed. But I wanted to be a firefighter, and I just wanted to do it because I was just attracted to helping people. I always, and I was, it was a physical job. I didn't want to be stuck in an office. I wanted to be out doing something different every day. And so I got my firefighter 1, firefighter 2. I got my associates in structural fire science at CNM. And then right after that, got my EMT license through UNM. And, it wasn't until, the tail end of getting my UNM, my EMT certification, that I sadly realized that firefighting wasn't for me. I was kind of not told a false lie, but just throughout the whole process, you always like envision yourself doing all of the cool stuff, right? I didn't really realize that 99% of what I was going to be doing was all ambulance calls and just all EMT stuff. And, if you guys have never, received your EMT or know, obviously you know what ambulances do, but you show up on the worst day of everyone's life. You get a call, and that's like when they've just got shot. That's when, they're having, a baby that's born on crack. Like, there's just so many of like the worst things you could think of. And, that was what I was exposed to right away. And it just kind of left me on like I don't know. It didn't leave like a good taste in my mouth, because I wanted to help them like in a different way. Even though, obviously we're required to help them with whatever they need. But like, I wanted to be for them more like emotionally. And like, if you guys don't know, like, they tell you to detach yourself from like all emotions when you're doing those types of jobs. So like, you can't tell them like it's gonna be okay, or you can't like really comfort them in like emotional ways like how I wanted. And it just, I knew that it wasn't gonna work out. I knew I wasn't gonna thrive. Like, when I was going through all the firefighter stuff, I was like the captain of my team for like firefighter 1. Like, when we would go into the burning houses and stuff, I was the one telling people what to do. I loved that part of it. Like, they would put a sock over in your goggles, and they would have you have all of your gear on, right? And you would have to climb through like a tunnel of like wires, like a little tiny tunnel with wires, and you had to push your oxygen backpack, your SCBA, through it. And so just things like that people didn't like, I loved. Like, I loved those challenges. But when it came to the EMT stuff, I didn't really thrive like I had wanted. So I ended up, luckily I had the, what is it called, that they give people, the lottery scholarship. So I still had the lottery scholarship, and I decided to switch gears, and I decided to go for my business degree, so general management. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but again, someone told me, business is the way to go. It's like super vague, you could get different things with it. So I said, you know what, I'm just gonna find this lane, I'm gonna stick with it, and after that I'll figure it out. And so luckily, I stayed persistent. I followed school all the way through. I graduated with some of my best friends. Throughout that process, I became the head junior wrestling coach while I was still going to school, while I was still finishing school. And there was just, things were starting to look up. There's, looking back, there's so much more to talk about. There's so much more to talk about. It's more than just school. It's more of the friends that you meet along the way at that young age. Be open to meeting new people. Be open to just never closing a bridge, because some of the people I needed the most during that time are the people that I never shut out of my life, and I still don't have them shut out of my life. But if I would have kept myself closed off to the world, who knows what doors wouldn't have opened, that I needed to. So, very blessed to have made a lot of friends in college. It was a crazy time. Throughout that time, I loved music, concerts, festivals, just like any kid at the age of 18 to 23 or 20, whatever. I still love concerts. But I was all about going to EDC. I was all about going to Coachella, Snow Globe, anything that just seemed like super cool. I was making money. I was working at Sandia. I got a job at Sandia at a young age. And so I had a little bit of money, and I'm very thankful that I was able to afford to go to all these cool things. It was just a good time. It was just looking back at those crazy times. I'm glad that I got it out of my system. I'm older. I'm more mature now. No, I'm just kidding. But I just don't desire to go as much as I wanted to back then, to where that was the only thing I was saving my money for. Because now I choose very wisely like what I want to do. I'm very calculated with like the concerts I go to now. You know, I'm not just like what's going on this weekend, what's going on, like I'm more like, okay, these are the two big festivals I want to go to, or this is the one main concert I want to go to this year, and I'll make it happen. So I've definitely slowed down a lot, like when it comes to that stuff. I got into snowboarding at I think like right out of my senior year. So during that time, all through college, again, I would snowboard every weekend from November all the way to March. Like I was going every single weekend. I was just trying to get better, trying new tricks, I was just obsessed with just getting better at snowboarding. I loved skateboarding too, but snowboarding was like just the pinnacle of like fun for me. You know, I was trying crazy stuff, you know, 360s, big air 360s, you know, front flip attempts, just whatever, rail grinds. And, you know, finally hit a wall. I finally hit a wall again, another wall, another pivot moment in my life. I got really badly injured at the age of like, I want to say like 21, 22. And you know, it was one of those life-changing injuries that I'm still dealing with today. And I had to lose 6 of my floating ribs due to this injury. Severe nerve damage, hiatal hernia. I took a really bad fall, and it messed up a lot of things. Again, you know, don't get too ballsy on ice days, which is what I was doing. And for those of you guys that don't know, like when you eat it on ice snowboarding, it's like falling on concrete, you know. So if you can imagine how much speed you could get just to slap the ice, is like, it's a deal breaker. So I went through that again. That was another thing that it was affecting my job to where I had to quit for a year, finish school. Then I had to get my foot back in Sandia. I started in custodial, believe it or not. I just figured the quickest way to get back in was through custodial. And, you know, the good thing is with like getting in through custodial is like you have first bid on like jobs that are internal. So I kind of saw, like, I was playing 4D chess and knew that if I paid my dues for a little while, you know, the chances of me getting in custodial were pretty good. Then I could be the first to get like the jobs that I really wanted, right? Because like people, they don't realize that like people that are trying to get into Sandia or get into these jobs, they're like, I want to be a project manager right off the bat, or I want to be, you know, like I went to school, I got my degree, should I be working custodial? And like people don't realize it's the most competitive jobs. You know, those are the hardest to get into. You know, think about how many people are applying for those and how many people they're going to let in is like that much, you know. So yeah, if you're like really got really good grades in college and you know, got a good GPA and you have a lot of experience, then that could work out for you. But, you know, I just I got to intern as a business professional while I was going to school, and I didn't like it that much. So I was kind of just open to starting something new. So I got in custodial. I was in custodial for about 1 year, and then I was lucky enough to receive a general technologist position in an org on an explosives range. And, you know, I can't really go into detail about what we do and, you know, what exactly we do there. But, you know, I mean, an explosives range and being an explosives operator, that just sounds like so much fun to me, you know. And so I'm on that path now. I'm still on that path. I'm super thankful for just all of the doors that I walked through that led somewhere with purpose. All I could give thanks to is God for guiding me, you know, through those dark times, through those pivotal points, and just, you know, not letting me ever give up. I'm so thankful for my Nana for accepting me into her home. My parents kicked me out when I was younger, out of high school or in college or whatever. They kicked me out. I was just giving them too much gray hairs. And my Nana Ree, she took me in, and I finished school while I was living with her. And Unfortunately, none of my grandparents are with me anymore. I lost them. They passed. At a young age to me. But I'm just thankful for all the times that they gave me, and all of the memories. People don't realize memories are so special, so crucial. Make as many good memories as you can. Like, open your eyes to the good things that are happening around you and the people that are good to you, because you don't know when you're not going to have them anymore. So I am very thankful that I received all of those from from my grandparents, and I'm very lucky to still have them, both of my parents, and they're still guiding me. And I'm a 28-year-old guy, and I still call my dad every day, my mom every day, and I ask them, what should I do about things? And not a lot of people have that. So if you do have that, pay attention to it and receive it, because you don't know how much it can change your life just by following in your parents' direction, and following in their advice that they give you. So yeah, here I am now. We started the podcast 3 years ago. Started it with Brandon. It was one of the funnest decisions I've ever made. We've grown the brand, and we've just had a good time throughout the whole period. We just had an awesome time with Brandon. He's such an amazing guy. He's just a good-spirited kid, and I think just by him having that good spirit all the time, it's gonna lead to good fruit in his life. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, it was kind of just a quick little recap of my life and where it's kind of started, and all the way up to now. There's 1,000 memories in between now and when I was born, and that's the fun about doing the podcast, is like memories just come to me like as we shoot episodes. So I just wanted to give you guys a chance to kind of know a little bit more about me, and what my life was like, who I'm about, how I grew up. It's just fun to share. It's good I'm glad to have you guys be a part of my life and get to share this journey with me too. You guys are all family to me. All of you guys that are listening, you're so important to me, every single one of you. I hope that you guys can subscribe and really show your support for us. It means a lot to me when you guys subscribe, and we could actually see that we're growing, and people are enjoying the content that we're putting out, because it really is just all us on the inside. It's just all raw, all real, not scripted. I encourage all you guys to live like that. Just keep being yourselves, stay weird, stay humble, stay motivated, and stay against the grain, guys. I love you guys. Until next time.